This video is just kind of a high-level experience that I've had installing a KMJ 250 amp alternator on an '04 Cobra. I'm mostly making this for me. In the event I need to take it out, I'll kind of know how to do it, but may also be helpful to other people if you're trying to install one of these. It's not going to be a step-by-step unbolt, thing like some of the other ones. You can go watch those for that. First of all, I got the alternator, and it did not have a pulley installed. I think Ken or KMJ does sell pulleys, but I didn't know that. So maybe if I had bought one, they would have already installed it. I don't know. But in order to get that on, I just used like a set of gloves to hold the pulley with my hand. I put on, per the instructions, it said you can put on some Loctite. So I just put on some blue Loctite, and I just used an impact wrench to throw it on there. Next up, coming out to the car, you will be spending a lot of time under the car, so any extra space you can give yourself on the front end will be helpful. Be safe too, jack stands, backup, whatever. I didn't take the wheel off for the installation, but if you do, you can also throw that under there. Let's see, next up is I removed the battery, and let me grab that real quick. As you can see in here, it's pretty dirty, a lot of rust there. So let's see. Yeah, the orientation is like this, but these two bolts were fine. This one though was super corroded, and well, actually one of the side bolts is kind of a little corroded there too, but it was corroded to the point where the bolt no longer even looked like a six-sided bolt, so I had to Dremel it off. So I suspect that's because I have the hood vents there, maybe letting water in from a car wash or something, and it just sits in there. But anytime you take the battery out, just check on that bolt. Don't let it get to the point where you gotta drill stuff out. Let's see, after you do that, go under the car, and you need to unbolt the power wire to the alternator. If I remember right, it's 10 millimeter. Next up is the alternator harness. And for that, you need to be very, very delicate with it. And the KMJ instructions kind of point that out there, that the wires can break inside the insulation from frequent if you keep monkeying with it. And the YouTube channel Mustang Lifestyle, they were installing an alternator, and they had that problem. They had to replace that pigtail down there. After you do that, you can come up, unbolt the alternator. There's a bolt here on top, one on the bottom. There's a lower alternator bracket that you can fully take those bolts out. And when you do, you'll want to, well, you also need to remove the lower alternator bolt too. But then you can kind of slide that lower bracket that way as much as possible. You can undo this. If you're installing the KMJ for the first time, you will need to take off the upper alternator bracket. For that, let's see if I can get a light in there. For that, there's two, don't know if you can see them, but there's two bolts. They're 10 mil. So obviously you have to have the alternator out first before you take those off. But those came off. They had a lot of force to get them off. There's two more bolts on the upper that you have to go into the car to get to. And I had to use a 1/2-inch breaker bar, and they're also 10 mil. And that just felt wrong to use a 1/2-inch breaker bar on those. But I was able to get those loose. And then as far as grinding, it says like grind that black part only. So I use an angle grinder, and I ground it to the point where when I like collapse the alternator into the bracket, that part was no longer the point of interference. It was actually hitting like that crossbar over there. So my strategy there was I want to grind it down all the way. I know that thing could be a bear taking in and out, so I didn't want to be in a position where I had to take that bracket back out to grind it more. Let's see. So next up is I also did a big 3 wire upgrade. I have not run the wire here yet to that point there, but that's super easy. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there's oil filters down there somewhere. It's a great time to change your oil and filter because in order to put in the negative big 3 wire under there, With the oil filter off, I still wasn't able to see that engine bolt very well, but I pulled it off, and there's 2 nuts on it, so I unscrewed the nut, and that was also the same nut that held the factory engine to frame rail wire. So undo the frame rail wire first, and then undo the engine bolt, because as you're loosening it, it may stick, and the wire will kind of, you know, start wrapping as you're unbolting it. So you'll have to do some gymnastics there to kind of keep the wire straight. And yeah. So that wire was kind of tricky just because I couldn't see it very well, but hopefully I'll never have to touch it again. Also, before I installed the frame rail, I took some sandpaper and just made sure I had like fresh metal contact under there. Let's see. Then I changed my oil, put the filter back on, reinstalled the upper bracket. Let's see, lower bracket. All the videos I saw, like, so now we're talking about how to, you know, pushing the alternator back up into the car. All the videos that I saw said to install the lower bracket, keep the upper bolt very, very loose, and don't have a bolt in the bottom at all. And I wasn't able to get the thing up there. So a couple things that I found that worked well is, one is I went ahead and left the bracket in there, but I unbolted the top one. And again, I pushed the bracket as far that way as possible. And then the other thing I did, not sure if you can, let me have it. There's like usually an apron under here that I undid and folded backwards. And that'll give you a little more clearance, and it'll also help you see what's going on in here and what the alternator may be catching on. So with those 2 tricks in play, I was able to get the alternator in here really not bad. I lifted it up in the orientation that it is right now, literally straight up, just like that. I wouldn't say it was like, it just went right in, but like just with a little bit of muscle to push it up and a little bit of guidance, and it actually wasn't bad. So, and again, this is the 250 amp. The hardest thing was actually not clear or getting it up to here, but it was trying to fit it in this bracket, because like it's a really tight fit and it just needs to go in completely perfect. So I did have a helper that was waiting up here to put the bolt in. I have no idea how I would have got that done without it. I maybe could have figured something out, but if you can get a second set of hands, it'd make that a lot easier. I don't think you need a second set of hands though if you're removing it. All right, so anyway, I bolted all the bracket stuff back up, alternator in, everything's on there. I did not notice any evidence of Loctite though on any of the brackets or alternator bolts. So I went ahead and just used, I put some anti-seize on them. But all right, that's what I did there. And then the next thing is the power wire. It is such a freaking, I did use the stock power wire. I'm not sure where, I think it maybe drips off that. It is so freaking tight to stretch that thing onto the alternator bolt, or power bolt, whatever you call that thing. It's on the underneath. And so I like stretched or just flattened it and pushed it as much as I could. I put that one on first. Then I actually installed the nut to get the bracket to go all the way down on the bottom of the alternator. And then I put the big 3 wire, or I took the nut back off. Then I put the big 3 red wire on and screwed it in. So that wire actually took me more time than the black one behind the oil filter. I don't know why that took so long. And then anyway, the orientation here that I saw this on Ken from KMJ made a comment on someone else's YouTube video, but I have the longer red wire that goes straight down off the alternator and then loops up. And I want to do a better job at securing the fuse holder down there. So it's that kind of acrylic box. And I may even take that off and see if I can snake it behind some of those other wires. But I want to get it away from the exhaust manifold as much as possible. But I'm pretty sure that's the way that, and I did message Ken and send him a picture, and he said, yeah, he thinks that would work. And then anyway, yeah, so all I got to do now is install my ground there, reinstall the battery box, and well, actually I'll probably do the belt before the battery box just because I'll be able to see it and access a lot better. And then circling back to the beginning, I did get a new battery bolt from CJ Pony Parts, and this thing was like $20 shipped, which is just insane. All right, now that I'm under the car, I am gonna go ahead and kind of show you guys my work under here. First of all, this is the apron that I was talking about. So there's a clip that goes kind of up and around there and right here. So I don't know if you can see it, kind of there on the side. So I just roll it out of the way there. Could be a reason why you keep the tire, or may want to keep the tire on. But anyway, let's see. Coming up here for, let's start with the wire harness. This is the part that I think is really supposedly delicate that I talked about earlier. So I just have it kind of looping around, and then I have the harness zip tied back onto that wire, also electrical taped for some redundancy. Yeah, I did throw on a brand new belt, so might as well. Well, I had to because I increased the alternator size per the recommendations from KMJ to not spin it past 16,000. So for the wire under here, so I zip tied the two wires together just to try to keep them as close together as possible. And then when it came to tightening it, I used a 1/4 inch socket with a 10 mil wrench and kind of snaked it back around the oil filter. So if you are changing the oil, you may, I've already like put new oil in and everything, so I don't want to take that off, but could be a reason not to put the oil filter back on yet until that's tightened. Could give you a little more room to work with. But when I was tightening it, I was, one hand was on the socket and the other hand was pushing against these two in that direction, because when you tighten it, it wants to bring the wires back up into the case and you don't want contact there. So kind of had to go back and redo some of my work, because when I had tightened it down, it was the wire, even though it's kind of in that rubber bushing, it was lodged up against that alternator bracket there. And then, yeah, you can kind of see here the other big 3 power line just comes straight down and then straight up.